So what's up, fellow Go Givers? Juwan Buford, broadcast Detroit, Michigan, and look, God knows what time it actually is, but I just could not sleep because there was a topic that's been kind of egging me. You know how it is when I've had too many conversations and my mind gets inundated with regards to a particular subject matter. I have to take to the, I was about to say radio waves. I'm dated, right? Thinking about radio stations, a conversation I heard on another podcast yesterday. But anyway, I had to take to social media and hopefully share some information and some gems that land well with you and are able to contribute to your success. So look, yesterday, I woke up with an amazing degree of clarity, mental acuity, and just a real sense of purpose that, quite frankly, I'll be honest, I hadn't been feeling in quite some time. I hadn't experienced in a while. I wasn't really super excited about the work that I was doing. And look, I was executing. I was making progress toward my goals and vision. I was serving the team and serving the people around me. And look, relatively speaking, I was operating at a really high level. But lately, I just felt like my progress, at the end of the day, it was just feeling like empty calories. I was putting points on the board, if you will, but I really didn't feel like I was making a huge impact in the game, right? Not the impact I'm seeking to make for myself personally and those individuals whom I serve. And so I cut some things out. I realized that I was falling into the trap that I have warned entrepreneurs about for years. I was becoming a light bulb instead of a laser. What do I mean by that? Light bulbs illuminate spaces and things, right? That's cool. But they don't directly impact the environment, right? They need help, right, in order to impact the environment. Whereas when you funnel that same energy through a laser, lasers penetrate things. Lasers curate things. Lasers shape things, right? Same energy, different impacts, right? And lately, I just was feeling like I wasn't making the impact and moving at the speed that I desired to move at, right? It's kind of like lifestyle creep. I think that's how I would describe what was going on in my business. It was lifestyle creep. You earn more, but rather than keeping your spending habits the same, you know what individuals will do, right? They will go out and they will actually spend more. And the latter feels real good in the beginning. It's like a baby wet in their diaper, right? It's all warm and nice. And then later on, it gets real cold and sticky, right? And then the baby starts crying and it ain't fun anymore, right? And in much the same way, it just seemed like the more time I freed up because of one business excelling, the more I found ways to fill that time, right? And the bottom line is I was doing too much. I like to help people. I like to see people level up. I like to see people achieving their potential. So, as my gifts gained me more and more access to different people, I began to investigate more and more ways to serve individuals. And because I knew the answers to their questions, I knew I had the solutions to their problems. And being a researcher and, nerdish, and I'm constantly evaluating, I just have this intrinsic need to improve. I don't need to get 100% better over the course of time, but I like to see that progress, right? And so I found myself doing deeper and deeper dives into subjects and into things that, it just kind of began to snowball, if you will, right? And then I looked up and I had all this momentum. I was building things that I should not have been building, right? And so, look, I realized that at the end of the day, I was also making another error in judgment without even realizing it. I was choosing to consume, can't blame social media. I was choosing to consume social media in a way that was also playing a huge role in my lack of efficacy as well. Because social media shows up as what we want, right? It dictates or it shares what we want to see, it shares what we want to hear. It allows us to have more and more access to what we want to experience. And it doesn't discern what's good for us or not. That's not social media's job. It's not optimized for that, right? It's not optimized to serve our needs, but rather our wants. So the more I researched, the more I learned, the more deep dives I took, the algorithm just continued to serve that appetite, right, for more information. And at some point, I just had to stop and I said, you see other people doing things. And you figure, guess what? I can do those things too. Why not, right? They're having success. I can do it too. But just because you can, that doesn't mean you should. Instead of allowing other people's examples, no matter how inspiring, because look, I'm not here to hate. I appreciate. I love seeing entrepreneurs do their things. I love see people operating their power. I love people seeing operating their gifts. There's a poem out there, man, Marion Williamson that Nelson Mandela read at his inauguration, where he talked about, you know, our light shining gives other people permission for their light to shine, right? For them to focus in and shine bright, right? So I love seeing that. But once again, no matter how inspiring other people may be at what it is they do, that should not dictate my direction. And it shouldn't dictate yours, right? Or where you pour, or quite frankly, to be honest, where I pour my energies. You know, I decided to actually, instead of looking on the outside, which I never really spend too much time looking on the outside, but once again, having the attributes that I have as an individual, I knew paying too much attention to other people's success stories was eventually become problematic, right? So I decided to shut that out, cut back on my social media big time, less consumption, even less posting, less everything on social media. Still use it, I know it's necessary, but I cut back on the information I was consuming. And I began to take rather inventory of me. I began to listen to me, right? And think about the world around me, not in relationship to what everyone else is doing, but how I can best contribute, right? And where I'm best suited. So I began to ask myself, look, number one, where the majority of my revenue is coming from? I'm an entrepreneur. This isn't, this isn't a nonprofit endeavor, even though people shouldn't say it anymore because nonprofit should be profitable. The conversation of the times, you know where I'm going with that, right? I was asking myself, you know, where is most of my income coming from on a consistent basis, right? So over an extended period of time, how has the marketplace, or why has the marketplace, or what has the marketplace been willing to reward me for in a way where it's just obvious, okay, I need to invest my time and energy here. This ground here is fertile, right? Where are my skill stacks? Where are my experience stacks? Where are my talent stacks? Where are my knowledge stacks? Where are things aligned, right? What are the things that are more closely related to or correlate or congruent with my life goals at this stage of the game, right? What businesses are really going to give me the lifestyle that I desire? Because life is what you're blessed to live, but style is how you live it. And there are people out here who, quite frankly, have wonderful lifestyles, earning 30 and 40 and 50K per year. They're good with that, right? They don't need a lot of the creature comforts that they see other people pursuing 24/7. They don't need all the, what's the word I'm looking for right now at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, whatever time it is. They don't need the luxuries of life, right? Long as they have their family, their children, they can go to the beach, lay out a blanket, eat an apple, eat some sandwiches, talk, chat, have fun. They're good, man. As long as they have a roof over their head, it can be tattered and torn, but it's theirs, and they're good with it. Not knocking it. Not my cup of tea, but not knocking it, right? So there are other people who need other things, but then there are things that people just, we talk about lifestyle. It's not always about what we're consuming either. It's about how we're spending our time and who we're spending our time with, right? I began to ask myself, you know, these different businesses I'm involving myself in, are they really leading me to where I want to go personally or otherwise? And so, you know, I began to ask myself, you know, what are the things that are more, once again, closely aligned with the lifestyle that I desire? Where do I easily crush the competition, right? And look, there's no such thing as easy when it comes to entrepreneur, but you get the point, right? The harder you work, the easier things get. But you understand what I'm saying. What are the things that I just feel like I'm more suited for, given my temperament, right? Given my nervous nature, given my competitive nature, given how the things that I like, the fact that I like things that are physical, but I'm also contemplative and patient, right? I'm not a person that's never needed the crowd to determine my worth, right? I've always had an internal compass, right? A self-concept that is very much independent in terms of caring what other people think about me, right? Where do I find happiness? Is it with a large group of people? Well, I know the answer to that, no. I enjoy extended periods of solitude. So what kind of businesses and what kind of things should I be doing that actually deliver those things for me, right? And so, I had to ask myself, and I encourage you to ask yourself, what are the things or challenges that I'm willing to accept, right? Whereas I'm not only willing to do what's necessary to succeed, but I'm willing to invest what's necessary to make it impossible not to succeed, right? And, I guess what I will leave you with is simply this. For those of you who are struggling with this challenge, you can be a jack of all trades all day long, master of none. You'll be okay. It feels good, just like that wet diaper. But remember this, people don't pay $15 for White Castle. People don't pay 5-star prices for 1-star treatment, right? You can get away with it for a little while, but not long term, right? And who wants to be on the hamster wheel where every 5 to 10, 15 years you have to reinvent yourself just because you're not willing to level up and do the things you should do to become elite, right? It's a lot easier to scale to 7 figures when you're focused on a short list of priorities, right? Or business endeavors in this example, rather than focus on 20 endeavors paying like $30,000 to $50,000 a year, right? Think about it for a moment. And so that's what I'd encourage individuals to consider. Those are the conversations I've been having, right? Because there's a lot of cacophony out here about having multiple streams of income, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to do too deep of a dive this morning about that, but you know where this is going. And hopefully this provides some clarification so you can live your best life, live a life of satisfaction, right? Satis, enough. And then the suffix action, so enough action to achieve your greatest potential, right? Achieve the things that you were divinely put on this earth to achieve. And with that being said, look, as always, sharing is caring. The only way this channel grows is by people sharing the information with other individuals when they believe would benefit from learning about it, right? Hit the like for the algorithm, right? Let the algorithm universe know that this content was valuable to you. And as we continue to grow in prominence, as we continue to grow in terms of attention, as more and more people are benefited, that gives us the space and the resources to invest more and to bring you more of the content information that serves you and edifies and fills your entrepreneurship soul. So with that being said, everybody have an incredible day. Celebrate success in advance. Goodbye for now.